it's now a distinct honor and a privilege to introduce to you a brother in arms and a fellow friar, Senator Rush.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Menino. I am profoundly grateful for your invitation to be here. The city of Boston, as each and every one of you can see, is stronger and more vibrant than ever in its history. Thanks to your leadership, your vision, your tireless advocacy for each and every citizen of the city of Boston, Mayor Menino, I thank you, and we all thank you. I'd like to acknowledge members of my family who are here. My mother, Ginny Rush, my brother, Jim Rush, my nephew, Kevin Rush, my uncle, Will Bertrand, my wife and daughter, Mary and Kira Rose, are here in the front row. And my dad, Jim Rush, is always with me in spirit, and especially on this day. They are my strength, as the mayor mentioned earlier. We are what our family is, and I feel so fortunate. Mayor and Mrs. Menino, Commissioner Urena, Colonel Wellman, Rear Admiral Nozzle, Dana, outstanding, outstanding rendition this morning. Phenomenal. Guests and friends, my fellow Bostonians, I share with you the words of Samuel Adams upon hearing the shots fired at Lexington on April 19, 1775. What a glorious day for America. Happy Independence Day. As the grandson of immigrants, a veteran, and a citizen of Boston, I am honored and humbled to stand before you today in historic Faneuil Hall to deliver the 4th of July Oration of the citizens of Boston, which has taken place since 1783. As a student of history, it is overwhelmingly pleasurable to know I am standing in the very footsteps on this stage of names like Warren, Otis, Sumner, Eliot, Adams, Winthrop, Curley, Brandeis, Kennedy, Moakley, and of course, Menino. As a student of history, it is really my greatest honor and privilege, and I am just thrilled by this day. 1 year ago today, I was 5,810 miles away from Boston, stationed in Baghdad, Iraq, with the Combined Joint Special Operation Task Force on orders with the U.S. Navy as a member of a military transition team for the Iraq counterterrorism forces. And I can unequivocally tell you today that I am having a much better 4th of July this year than I did a year ago. In fact, I couldn't help but notice as I looked at my iPhone, it is a balmy 110 degrees in Baghdad today, and it is great to be here in Boston. My mentor at Providence College, Professor Robert Deasy, taught me well, and what he taught me through 6 years of training is that when studying history, words matter. The Founding Fathers believed that words mattered. 236 years ago on this very day, after an intense debate, a declaration was written that contained a word that mattered, and that word is independence. In fact, the word was so powerful that it motivated a colony and its people for the first time in history to win freedom from a colonial master. In a letter to Abigail on July 3rd, 1776, a young John Adams wrote, "Yesterday, the greatest question was decided whichever was debated in America, and a greater perhaps never was nor will be decided amongst men. A resolution was passed without one dissenting colony, quote, that these united colonies are, and of right, ought to be free and independent states. The history of Massachusetts is filled with instances that help us to better understand that, in fact, words do matter significantly in the history and greatness of our nation. Words like taxation, representation, Stamp and Sugar Act, boycott were words that ignited the Revolutionary War. Patriot James Otis used powerful words to argue against the British writ of assistance right here in Boston, stating that a man's home is his castle. By throwing crates into our harbor, colonists forever made the words Boston Tea Party have a very different meaning than they were understood to be. Words are attributed to particular locations and significant events that are unique to our identity. The Boston Massacre, Lexington and Concord, Paul Revere's Ride, Bunker Hill, Dorchester Heights, and Evacuation Day. Massachusetts Senator Charles Sumner found out how dangerous words can be when he was severely beaten with a cane on the floor of the U.S. Senate for uttering the words crimes against Kansas. Governor John Andrew, Colonel Robert Gould Shaw and the Fighting 54th, and many others despised the word slavery. And because of that, citizens of Massachusetts fought courageously and victoriously in the Civil War to keep our Union together. Words matter. In the history of all 351 cities and towns throughout Massachusetts, they are named for people like Revere, Winthrop, and Quincy. They're named for towns in England like Boston, Salem, and Braintree. They're named for Native American names like Scituate and Mattapoisett. Words have been used to describe Boston by Oliver Wendell Holmes as the hub of the solar system and John Winthrop as a shining city upon a hill. And our state, when Calvin Coolidge used his words to tell citizens to have faith in Massachusetts. Here in Massachusetts, words matter in ways that only our citizens may understand. We have a wooden fish in the State House known as a sacred cod. Every 4 years, we have an election to fill a position in the corner office. Residents ride the T, and one of our greatest national treasures is nicknamed Old Ironside. Words matter in finding the right location in Boston, as we have an old and a new State House, an old and a new City Hall, an old and a new Hancock Building, an old and a new garden, a green monster, and the area known as the Back Bay was filled in over 100 years ago. And finally, words matter in the extreme confusion that they can cause when Bostonians venture outside the city and state. After spending 11 months away with mostly people from the Midwest and the South, I think you know what I'm talking about. In his speech to the Massachusetts legislature prior to being sworn in, President-elect Kennedy used words that mattered to inspire people. He said, courage, judgment, integrity, dedication. These are the historic qualities of the Bay State and the Bay Colony. Those words that describe the attributes of our citizens, I believe, are the very essence of the unique American spirit fostered here in Boston and Massachusetts and spread to the rest of the colonies through the War of Independence and now embedded in our national character in the American spirit that we know now. For we have to look no further than our women and men who have served in the armed forces throughout our nation's history and who continue to serve today. They will tell you that words matter. Words like loyalty, duty, service, respect, honor, commitment, faithfulness matter so much to these individuals today, just like the word independence meant to our revolutionaries 236 years ago, that they are willing to pay the ultimate sacrifice because of these words. In conclusion, on Independence Day, we as citizens can honor our great history, individual sacrifices, and commitment to these important words by always choosing our words wisely, understanding the importance of what we say and how we say those words and put them into action for the betterment of our nation and the tradition of our forefathers on this Independence Day. I would like to leave you with the words that mattered to John Adams, which he gave on the 50th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence, which coincidentally was also the day that both he and President Thomas Jefferson died, 50 years to the day of their signing. My fellow citizens, independence forever. Thank you, and God bless you all, and God bless the United States of America.